let's talk, because I think of the ledges I've talked coaches off of in the last couple of years, one of them is really second guessing or doubling down on, hey, have you considered all of the trials and tribulations of building out an in-person facility, right? Like from the bathrooms to the parking spaces to the conditional use permits. Like, do you have enough parking spaces? What's the fire code? Like, is this like, it's just an exhaustive, endless list. Now you guys have to deal with those lists for a living. What in that process, like if you were to advise someone, like someone who's just looking to build a one-off facility, because obviously, like, you know, there's probably an inverse economies of scale here where these problems precipitously drop per relative percentage of location. It's like, you know, maybe 1 point or 0.75 or 0.6. It's like, it's not like having double the permitting problems. It's not like having double the bathroom problems. I got one plumber that goes to 3 locations. For the people, like when you guys started your first facility, what were the initial, like, are you fucking serious? Are you serious? Vish, what were the initial roadblocks that you're like, yo, can we just go back to the other gym and just pretend like I never said anything?
I mean, there's loads.
Yeah, we had some really interesting moments. I think dealing with real estate sounds very glamorous, but in reality, there's huge delays, there's expenses that pop up and crop out of nowhere, there's managing people, there's, gosh, what do we have in the first?
I mean, one of the best ones was we'd taken our space, we were about to sign the agreement, and our landlord came back to us and said, we've just adjusted your floor plan a little bit because we forgot about a bike ramp that has to now run through your premises that we promised you. So like, okay, having already designed it, done the layouts, organized the gym, everything, this was one of the issues. And so they went, but don't worry, we're going to give you this extra bit over here on the right-hand side. And we're like, okay. What they forgot to mention is that underneath the extra bit they gave us is one of Europe's biggest screening rooms for Warner Brothers.
Editing studio. It's even more sensitive. Editing studio. Yeah.
And so you can imagine that having a gym above an editing studio is probably not the most ideal circumstance. So that was one of the biggest clangers.
Yeah, that put some friction between myself and Vish when I said, look, we've got to spend an extra 40 grand on flooring just because of a small subsection of floor. It's not the best way to kickstart a new business. So look, I mean, stuff like that cropped up all over the shop. Like, even like, it doesn't sound like a massive bit, but even when they moved the staircase, we had to redo the acoustics testing. We had to redo all of the planning across the building because it materially changes these things. These small changes have big impacts, and then there was a whole bunch more. But yeah,
I mean, you know, being in a new building, we had building works that continued for the first 12 months, and so look, you could kind of crowd out the drilling on the floor above with a bit of music in the gym. But in our therapy rooms, it's probably, it was not ideal, let's put it that way. And, you know, if someone's getting what's meant to be a relaxing massage and someone's trying to come through the ceiling, it's not a good look.
I think, Jordan, we our funniest one, which we still laugh about today, is we had set our touring dates. So we had tours booked in on this 1 week where we were going to launch our sort of touring schedule. And there was a delay with the build, meaning the floor hadn't been laid throughout our space properly. So we toured people through our building and their feet were sticking to the floor. It was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster, yeah.
Now, you're at 3 locations now.
Yeah.
Certainly, you've pushed the envelope with every location. I've been to 2 of the 3. Previous conversation makes it seem that the 3rd location, the envelope is pushed again. Does anything surprise you now? Like, our neighbors is one of the biggest, you know, editing studios in the entire world. Shit, the bike ramp pushed us 40K over. We're touring people through the house, and we have to put like little plastic things on their shoes. With pushing the envelope, I'm assuming it comes with new challenges. I'm assuming it comes with, you know, new obstacles. Like, how callous, and this is me speaking as a business owner myself, like how callous has the startup business space made you, like how, or maybe callous is the wrong word, but is there resiliency that comes with, because I'm assuming you guys aren't stopping at 3. Is there kind of this like London Blitz mentality of like, we come out of the tunnels and like, okay, we survived another one. You'll never take us alive, like a Churchillian type, like, you know, cultural reference, but does that, or do you guys ever just get tired?
I think what we've learned to do really well is roll with the punches. So what we've learned is, irrelevant of how many times you've launched clubs, and having spoken to people who've launched multiple clubs well beyond what we've done, you're always going to run into problems, no matter how many times you've done it or how good your processes are. There's always going to be things that crop up. So I think you're sort of right in what you said, is we built a thicker skin, and we know that things are going to pop out the blue last minute. So for example, with Marylebone, we had leaks in the gym, like it'd been leak free, nothing at all for months in the build. Day one we launched, leaks all throughout the gym, the towel chute breaks, all this sort of stuff. So it's learning about how do you accept that and find a solution, as opposed to worry and go frantic and send everyone else scattering. And also just knowing it's going to happen. I guess that was one of the biggest learnings for me personally. But
I mean, one of our teams says it pretty well. Like, hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Now, you'd had startup business experience before, so, you know, relative scale dealing with insurance companies in America versus a couple of gyms in London. Obviously, you know, it might be hard to compare the two. Dan, stepping out from the training world and now being thrust into the middle of like probably one of the more exciting fitness startups, especially in the physical gym space. Do you find as if like the learning curve might be a little bit steeper, of like, you've never done this before? I mean, coming from the strength and conditioning world, that almost gets coddled out of you, of like, go do what you're good at and we have the rest. So it's like, well, hold on, now you're on the other side of the coin. You're the other guy who's telling everyone else like, I got it, you guys just train. What was that learning curve like, of like, you know, whether it's bringing on investors, whether it's talking about board, and obviously this is probably a daily thing. What has been your biggest surprise? What has taken you aback in the startup process of coming out of, like, you know, sounded like you're in a position where a fair few of listeners, and even myself at a certain point, what's that startup process been like for you?
I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a massive shock, and our whole team can vouch for the sort of learning curve I've been on. Has been very steep, to say the least. It was a totally different stimulus. I went from doing something I felt like I knew lots about, and being in an industry where I was in control. It's not monotonous, but you do the same sorts of things with different lenses on each day. Whereas we were then I was thrusted into a world of PowerPoint decks, talking through Excel sheets with these guys, being more mentally stimulated and challenged, as opposed to all the physical exertion I was having. So it was a totally different shift, and also a totally different mentality I had to have, because I knew, in order to not be a bottleneck for the business, I had to very quickly learn and progress my sort of skill sets in order to keep the business growing fast and not slow it down, basically. So that was a huge one for me, and I very quickly had to pick up those skill sets. So it was massive. It was massive, yeah.
Now, fitness seems to be an odd space where subject matter expertise can take someone very far, right? Especially in the digital world. Like, you know, we know kids making 6-7 figures, and even just the illusion of subject matter expertise in the business space. And you see it, right? Like, I mean, I train at a gym down the street. It's an emerging chain in Canada. You know, it's bougie. It has a meditation pod or something. And I was like, yeah, but your cable machine's been broken for 3 weeks. Like, well, we're a social club. And I'm like, I'm going to burn this place down if you don't fix that fucking cable stack. Being the purist and being like, you know, the subject matter expert, but now kind of having to be at the behest of like, well, this is a business and the point of a business is to make money. Is there, or was there? Because I've been in the facilities, and kit wise, that's a British term, kit. I'm, you know, Churchill kit. I'm basically British. It's one of the best kitted out gyms I've ever been, from the dumbbells, the selection of the equipment. I'm like, Vish did not pick that. Sorry, Vish, you might have learned some stuff since 2018. This is a veteran playbook. how do you guys balance the purity, the authenticity of the product and the space coming from your background with the balance sheet?
Yeah, it's a question we get asked quite a lot, actually, which is we know that because we target the top quality professionals in London right now, we know they expect to deliver the best service possible to their customers. So whenever we think about equipment, we want to ensure, irrelevant of where that piece of equipment is from, we want to ensure it's the very best piece for what it does. So our push has always been, and Vishal has always been, you sort of always supported me in this philosophy, is we always make sure we can supply the very best for what these practitioners need, and then we'll find a way to make it work. It does work within our model anyway, but we before every new opening of a club, we always make sure we speak to members, understand what they want from their equipment. So yeah, the first club you saw in Soho was picked by myself with a lot of different practitioners' sort of insights and feedback. But that continues to evolve and change as we grow and scale our clubs. And I think we'll always stick by that. We'll always pick the best of the best for what's on the market at the time.
I mean, look, if you're a practitioner at the top of your game and you're charging top money, you want to be proud of the environment you work in. You want to feel like you're working with the best. Like if we hire a designer and I give them a PC, I mean, I think PCs are the best business laptops, but if I don't give them a Mac, they're going to be like, if I don't give them a Mac, they'll be like, what? You want the best bit of kit. It allows you to do your best work. Do we need some of the equipment that we've got? No. Would a consumer know about it? Probably not. But if the practitioner does, they will sell the dream. The consumer, I didn't know anything about Eleiko before I started training with Dan, and it didn't really mean anything to me. And then, when I'm telling my friends outside, I'm like, oh, they've got these plates and they're Olympic style plates, and you feel like you're getting a better experience. But really, we ultimately want to make sure that the practitioners feel like, to your point, Jordan, you saying that this is one of the best kit out spaces that you've seen hits the nail on the head. It's like, great, we're nailing the brief, and in fact, we'll keep pushing that because every site's got to be better. We won't be complacent. Like every site has to be the best in the market.